CBS. Yeah, get loose. Cowboys coming off that OT loss in Green Bay, a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. You walk out of there with nothing, looking to avoid losing back-to-back games for the first time this season, and going against the Vikings team that had all the bounces go their way and all the confidence building after that win against Buffalo. But if you feed Zeke, he's going to eat. Cowboys up 10-3 later in the second. Cowboys up 13-3. Dak off to Tony Pollard. Pollard gets the sideline and scores. Cowboys up 20-3. Pollard's longest career receiving touchdown for now. Now 13 seconds to go before the half. How about some love for the kickers? Cowboys with a 2nd and 4 on their own 31. Prescott rolling right. Throws on the run to CeeDee Lamb. Look at CeeDee. Keeping the toes down, securing the catch, would be reviewed. Call on the field stands, would set up a 60-yard attempt for Brett Maher. Never a doubt. 3 of 3 prior career from 60-plus. Make it 4 of 4. Guy's got a leg. Cowboys head into the half with a big-time advantage. 23-3, your score at the break. Vikings facing their largest deficit of the season, and it didn't get a whole lot better. 3rd and 14, third quarter. More Pollard. More yak. Pollard, 68-yard receiving touchdown. Surpasses his previous career high, which he set moments ago in this highlight. Dak running it up, Pollard getting it done through the air, Zeke on the ground, everything coming up Cowboys, as this one would finish 40-3, your final, no contest. It's the largest road win in Cowboys franchise history. Yeah, I'll say it again. Largest road win, 37 points in Cowboys franchise history. The previous largest win was 35 points in both 1971 and 1975. Pollard, 189 total yards. The Vikings, 183. Tony Pollard had himself a day with those 2 touchdowns. The Vikings, however, with the loss, snapped that 7-game winning streak. It's their first loss since week 2 against the Eagles. During that win streak, their winning margin of victory, that is, plus 36. Poof, gone in a quick. Lost this game by 37. It's also their first home loss this season, previously 4-0. All right, let's send you back out to Minnesota, where Tracy Wolfson is catching up with Dak Prescott.
Well, Dak, that had to feel good. What happened out there offensively that just had you guys in sync today?
Yeah, I mean, we just played a complete game. Offense, defense. We knew we needed to respond after last week, and this was big for us. Now it's just about taking it 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time. If we can continue to do this, this team can be special.
Just about the combination of Zeke and Pollard when they're out there together. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, they're dynamic, and obviously when you have them both out there, defense doesn't know what's coming at them. Just for TP to have 2 touchdowns out of the backfield receiving, Zeke to have a couple rushing, just impressive. Those 2 guys can do whatever you ask them to do. They have no egos, and they're a great duo. We're blessed.
Your defense, a lot of criticism coming into this game. How about how they answered 7 sacks today on this Minnesota team?
I knew they would. They definitely heard everything that was out there. Those guys are hungry. They wanted to come in. They wanted to respond, make a statement. And when we get up and we give them some points ahead, that's what they're capable of doing tonight, is hunting, and they did that for sure.
Quick turnaround. You got Thanksgiving against your rival Giants. Your early thoughts on that one?
Ready to go. Obviously, I missed them the first time, so ready to get at them this time and have a great Thanksgiving game.
Good luck. Have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Well, you heard Tracy say it. Obviously, the Cowboys in action, as they always are on Thanksgiving, but this Vikings team needs to bounce back quickly as well, as they will appear on Thanksgiving against the Pats. 4 days to figure it out. And interestingly enough here, with that margin of victory on Sunday, the Vikings find themselves on a list that you kind of want to be on and kind of don't. 8-2, but with the worst point margin at -2, the San Diego Chargers back in 1987 had a +6 point differential at an 8-2 mark. But here the Minnesota Vikings are coming back into question after a statement win against Buffalo. Plenty to figure out for the Purple. All right, let's dive in with the guys. Gentlemen, plenty to dig into here, whether it be the 2-headed monster that emerged in Dallas. But I just want to go surface level here first, because it's a Dallas team that really let go of the rope in Green Bay a week ago and lost that game. They bounced back against the current toast of the conference, really, and handle them with little to no issue here, B-Mac. I want to focus on the Cowboys here first. What did you see out of them in this performance that made this so lopsided?
I mean, we can always talk about Dak Prescott and the offense, Tony Pollard and crew. But let's talk about the defense. Remember, they had basically a letdown against a team offensively that has really been average, to say the least, in the Green Bay Packers. Talking about coming into this ball game with motivation on your mind, a chip on your shoulder, they played that way the entire ball game. I understand they accounted for 7 sacks against Kirk Cousins, but when they was not sacking Lil Kirko, as they call him, they were putting pressure on him. He never got comfortable at all. They started the game with motivation on their mind. Remember the first offensive possession, Michael Parsons, a strip sack. They recovered the football, got their offense in a great position to put points on the scoreboard, settle for a field goal. But that was just the mindset for this team through and through for 4 quarters. So hats off to the Cowboys defense. They looked, in today's matchup, they looked like the best defense in the entire NFL.
And that's the thing, B-Mac. You can go from 1 week, Green Bay, they don't show up, the entire team, and you come to this week, and they look exactly like we thought they were going to play. It almost feels like what happened last week when the Vikings were in Buffalo, and Buffalo sort of no-showed down the stretch. It's so hard to get a feel of who these teams are, but I feel like the Cowboys are more this team that we saw today than the team that we saw last week losing Green Bay. You talked about defense, I'll talk about offense, and you mentioned Tony Pollard, 30-yard touchdown catch, 68-yard touchdown catch, rush for 80 yards, and oh, by the way, he's the #1 running back in the NFL in terms of yards after contact. Now, look, Zeke got the 2 touchdowns. He pulled the old Zach Crockett there when he was with the Raiders in the early aughts, where they just handed him the ball at the 1-yard line. He got all the accolades, but it was Tony Pollard that did the heavy lifting. Here's the touchdown right here, where he just outran everyone untouched. By the way, both those touchdown passes, Joe, Pollard was untouched into the end zone. And if you can't get your hands on someone that plays on the other team, you're probably going to lose by 37. Here we are. Great win for the Cowboys. I think it says less probably about the Vikings, other than they just got their brain stomped in after a huge win last week. But I don't think it's a commentary on where their future is at in the NFL.
Well, let's talk about that future, because this is a team that now has to pick themselves up by their bootstraps in 4 days' time to take on the Patriots, who, I mean, offensively, they've showed us little to nothing, didn't score an offensive touchdown, still come out with a win here on Sunday. But that's besides the point, B-Mac. When you're in one of these locker rooms and something like this happens, when you're looking up at the scoreboard, and yeah, you win some, you lose some, but you don't want to lose many like this. How does the team keep this from compounding?
Well, they have to rely on their sound leadership. What I saw from the Minnesota Vikings reminded me when I was a child, and my mom used to make me take medicine that I didn't like it. It didn't taste good, but she made me take it, and I had to swallow it, and I had to, come to terms. It was good for me. This was a good loss for the Minnesota Vikings because you know why? It humbled them down. They needed a humbling moment, and like Ryan just mentioned, it wasn't just about being humbled. They got beat up. They got their behinds whooped today. The sense of urgency is something that we did not see. The first possession, sack, fumble. The second possession, you drove the length of the football field, 2 opportunities for T.J. Hockenson to come up with a huge touchdown. They could have really changed the momentum in this ball game. They lost it. Didn't come through on those opportunities. And because of that, they started slow, and the Cowboys just took off. So let's see exactly what type of leadership this team has in a short week to be able to bounce back and showcase that they're still a playoff caliber team, which is safe to say because their division is so bad. But it's more than just being a playoff caliber team. When you have this type of record, people believe and feel you should make a deep postseason run. So let's see what they can do in regards to their second opportunity to bounce back on the football field in a short week to showcase everybody, you know what? We're not as bad as we displayed last week. We just had a bad moment.
You mentioned the Thanksgiving Day game they got coming up, B-Mac. The good news is they should be well rested because they didn't do a whole lot of anything in this game. A lot of the starters were out by the 4th quarter, and they have time to think about all that went wrong. And I don't want to just read stats to you, Joe. 1 of 11 on 3rd down. Not great. Time of possession, 37 minutes to 22 minutes and change in favor of the Cowboys. Also not great. And we came in with that graphic where they were plus 35-point differential, which is the lowest of any team ever at 8-1. Now they're -2. Last year, this same Vikings team that won had a bunch of close games. They finished 6-8 in those close games. Their point differential for the year, -1. So it just shows you how incredibly lucky you can be from one year to the next when the ball bounces one way as opposed to the other, and you can stack those wins. Now they're playing similar type football, different coaching staff, different GM, of course. Kirk Cousins is playing at a higher level. We know what Justin Jefferson can do. But now they have to find a way to win more convincingly because once you get into December and January, those one-score wins can go the wrong way for you, and that's it. The season's over. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on Thursday night, that Thanksgiving Day game, and how much they've learned from this beating they just took from the Cowboys.
Yeah, this Vikes team really experiencing the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in 1 week time. Anytime we can give Bryant McFadden the chance to talk about some defensive back play, we got to do it, because you look at that box score and Justin Jefferson, 3 grabs for 33 yards is obviously not what you're looking for if you're the Vikings offense. You mentioned the pressure up front here from Dallas. Obviously, that leads to things being easier on the back end. But what did you see out of that secondary as well, B-Mac, as we take a look at some of the numbers here? 5 targets for Jefferson, 3 grabs for 33 yards. Schematically, you got to get that guy the ball more. What did you see on the back end?
Well, for the Cowboys, of course, they had Trayvon Diggs following Justin Jefferson. We know what type of player he is in the secondary, one of the best corners in the game. But today he didn't have to do a lot. He didn't have to do a lot because Kirk Cousins couldn't get set or comfortable in the pocket. At one time, I counted on a 5-step drop, Kirk Cousins had 2 seconds before someone was in his face from the Dallas Cowboys. And it was a 5-step drop. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? They played their best game, the guys in the trenches, and then they also incorporated some defensive back blitzes, and they were able to put pressure on Kirk Cousins. So, yes, Diggs and crew did a pretty good job, but I can tell you this much. Life was easy for them because they didn't have to cover long. This was probably one of the worst offensive line performances I've seen this year, coming from a team that has playoff aspirations, because they got dominated from start to finish from the Dallas Cowboys.
You know what it felt like, B-Mac? A little 2008 Lamar Woodley, James Harrison, Juan Timmons, doing all the heavy lifting up front, and then you guys just sit in the back and make plays because there's not a lot to do.
Ryan,
I mean, am I right?
That group you just mentioned won a Super Bowl, by the way.
It is no doubt a team game, and we are happy to play it with this team. Gentlemen, stay put. More action coming your way in just a moment.